At its core, the first season of The Wire is about the war on drugs in Baltimore between the police and the Barksdale crew. With such a large ensemble cast, it was hard to pinpoint whose story falls into which category. Part of what makes these characters so engaging is how often their morals are called into question, and this is not solely a characteristic of the police, but also Avon Barksdale and his crew. Without a doubt in my mind, The Wire is a classical tragedy, and I can't think of a better character whose story fits this narrative than D'Angelo Barksdale. Being Avon's nephew, by the time we meet Dee, he is already completely engulfed in his uncle's business and standing trial for murder during a deal gone bad. After having served 8 months in jail, Avon pulled some strings and Dee was pronounced innocent. Prior to the events of the show, Dee was in charge of an apartment tower, which was a major site for dealing, but because of the altercation that got him in prison, Avon moved Dee to the Pit, a rundown block of homes in the projects. He is told by his uncle that he just needs to prove he won't make the same mistake again, risking the whole operation in the progress. This reality check hits Dee hard, but he is determined to prove to Avon that he is capable of being who he wants him to be. Despite this, during his first days running the pit, Dee purposefully doesn't let his crew kill Johnny. Some could argue that he didn't want to be a part of another murder case, but I believe this moment hints at his eventual character development later on in the season. Dee is not a good person, but he isn't like the rest of the Barksdale crew. Later, Dee finds out that William Gant, the man who testified against him in his murder trial, was found dead. After being arrested on no basis other than being the obvious suspect, Dee is ruthlessly interrogated by McNulty and Bunk. They use any means necessary to try and get a confession out of Dee, all of which fail, but when shown a picture of Gant's supposed children, Dee is overcome with remorse. Remorse not because he was guilty, but because he knew there was no reason for an innocent man to die. We know that Dee never for sure knew that Avon was behind Gant's death, but he was already out of prison. Who cares that he testified against him? Well, Avon cares, of course, and he cares about maintaining control through any means necessary as well as keeping Dee in the dark. In one of my favorite scenes from the first season, Dee explains to Wallace and Bodhi how to play chess. He does so by relating each of the pieces and their moves to the Barksdale drug empire. What I specifically love is Dee's description of the pawns.
Nah, yo, it ain't like that. Look, the pawns, man, in the game, they get capped quick. They be out the game early.
This view of the pawns being the soldiers is how Dee sees himself and the rest of the crew. They are all expendable pawns in Avon's empire and will die by the king's command. On another day, Dee shares a story with his crew about how he killed Deidre Cresson. He goes into excruciating detail on how he lured her to the window before shooting her. But in reality, it was Weebay who shot and killed her. He fabricated the story so he could present himself to his crew as something he's not, and gain more of their confidence and trust. This is not the only example of Dee caring about how he presents himself either. Besides the multiple times characters have commented on how long it takes for Dee to get ready, the clearest example comes from his anxiety at a nice dinner. We see him constantly look at his surroundings, the other patrons, and the workers, as he feels seen for who he is. Dee is a drug dealer, and the money he has made all came through illegal methods. He believes everyone can see who he is, and is judging him for it. But then, his baby's mother tells him,
"Boy, don't nobody give a damn about you and your story. You got money, you get to be whatever you say you are. That's the way it is."
Dee is uncomfortable with the fact that he isn't a normal citizen like everyone else, and continues to contemplate the morality of his occupation. He doesn't know if this is the right fit for him. It doesn't stop there, as his morals come into question once again during a party celebrating Stinkum getting a promotion from Avon. A lot can be said about that already, but a lot already happens during this party. First, Dee learns that the rules of the organization don't apply to the people higher up the chain. Second, it is reiterated that the crew does not have any respect for Dee, sending him on a liquor run just for the party to be over upon his return. And third, and definitely most importantly, Weebay sexually assaults Keisha Michaels after she died of a drug overdose. As a result, we once again see Dee seriously contemplate whether or not this life is truly right.
This game, staying with my uncle, might not be right for me, I'm thinking.
And it doesn't stop there, as his anxiety is pushed even further when he fears for his life by his own family's hand. After Kimo was shot by Weebay and Little Man, the pot was stirred on both ends of the drug war. By this point, emotions are high, and Dee is seriously questioning his place in the world. When Stringer tells Dee to go with Wee-Bey with no explanation, once again leaving him in the dark, Dee fears for his life. He believes his own family gave up on him. Now, obviously this isn't what happened, and we get a great scene of Wee-Bey teaching Dee about his fish, but the point still stands that Dee's loyalty is wavering, and Wallace's death was the final push. Prior to his death, Wallace was incredibly depressed over being the reason a man was murdered. He started using, never left his room, and eventually left to go stay with his grandma at the police request. However, he came back wanting to start anew, which caused Stringer and Avon to take notice. He was deemed a liability, and Bodie was put to the test, resulting in Wallace's murder. All of this occurred even after Dee was asked about Wallace, and he told them that he wasn't a threat to the Empire. Even though he was talking to the police, he just wanted back the only life he knew. Before Dee even found out, he was sent on a drug run to New York City, where he was obviously arrested, and I wholeheartedly believe that Avon had planned it. In a heated exchange between Dee and Stringer, Dee is overcome with emotion and demands to know where Wallace is. This is the moment Dee decided he was going against his family. He gave the police everything they were looking for. Names, locations, events. He released it all in exchange for a new start. However, that was not the end to Dee's story. Just when everything seemed to be going as planned, Dee's mother visits him in jail to talk some sense into him. She manipulates her son, telling him the whole family will suffer for his decision and to not turn his back on those who brought him up. Maybe it was the fear of disappointing his mother. Maybe he thought he would never be able to escape his uncle. Maybe he lost his hope. Whatever the reason was, Dee took the fall for his family and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. D'Angelo Barksdale is the perfect example of a classical tragedy. He is grounded in fates that are not fair, but he tried to rise up against its injustice. However, The Wire has taught us that Dee still falls back into these perilous fates. His family are the chains that keep him restrained, but also what keeps him standing. If he breaks the chains, he might not be able to stand on his own. So is it even worth it to escape? Well, unfortunately, Dee believed he couldn't stand alone and accepted his fate, falling for his family.